Hi, Phil. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how you going?
Good. Now, um, as people can see, we've got Phil Gore on the podcast, and he has just done the world record for backyard ultras with 102 hours, which, correct me if I'm wrong, my maths is wrong, that's 683.4 kilometers. Is that correct?
684.4.
Oh,
So
really?
you're one
What's
kilometer off,
1K
but it
when you've
doesn't
done
really matter.
680?
I robbed
Yeah.
you. So yes, and what date did you do that on?
So it started on the 17th and finished on the 21st.
Of June.
And what event
Yeah.
was it?
The Australian Backyard Masters, which is held at Dead Cow Gully in Queensland.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so can you just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? How did you get into running?
Um, I kind of got into it in high school. I was never really that good, but I just kind of stuck with it. And then yeah, from like year 8 to year 12, kind of gradually improved until I became not the top, but one of the top in the school. Um, but then left school, started working full time, kind of fell out of the habit, and yeah, it wasn't until yeah, probably about 10 years later that I kind of picked it up again. Um, yeah, just so I started a new job as a firefighter. Had a bit more spare time, and I wanted to find something that would keep me fit for my job. I tried a few different things, but I kind of just kept gravitating back towards running. Um, and it was also around that time that I discovered parkrun. So yeah, started doing the parkrun every week, and then I just thought I just want to get better at this 5K thing, and I just kind of made a commitment to just run 5Ks every day. And I'm like, if I just run 5Ks every day, surely I'll get better at it. And that's kind of where it started. And just from there, just, I was consistent with it. And, that 5K turned into 10K, turned into 12K, half marathon, marathon. And I kind of, yeah, just enjoy doing those sort of 5K to marathon distances for a while until it was about 4 years ago, I kind of got into the ultra running scene. So I started with a 12-hour ultra, just as far as you can go in 12 hours.
Was that on a
And then my
track?
that was on a trail course, which is about a 2.5K loop.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so I did that, and I kind of discovered I had a bit of a talent for the longer stuff, but I wasn't really hooked until probably 18 months after that. I did my first backyard ultra, and that was just where I kind of fell in love with the format for that one. And I've just been trying to get better at it ever since. So that's
Yeah,
kind of it in a nutshell.
we watched your YouTube video of when you did Herdes, I think it was.
Yeah, I think it
Yep.
was.
Yep.
Yeah, you did the
So
46 hours, I think it was. 48.
Yes, that was 48 hours. So
48
at the
hours,
time, that was an Australian record.
yeah.
yeah.
And that was my second ever backyard ultra.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Jeez. So how many have you done in total? No.
So including the one I've just done, that was my ninth one. So
Oh,
okay.
wow. So you must love them.
Yeah.
yeah. I've been pretty much averaging 3 a year.
Wow.
And then so they're kind of, when I look at my calendar for the year, they're kind of like my three main runs that I want to do. And then I will do other ultras in between. It might be a 50K or a 100 mile or a 12-hour or 24-hour. But they're kind of like my B races. Like that's what I kind of use as my training runs for the
I was
backyards.
going
The
to say,
backyards
when
are
you're
my
using a
priority.
100-miler for your training runs,
Yeah,
like,
I know
oh my
that's
God.
that's a whole other
Yeah.
step up.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, yeah, it's a training run, but I'm still also like pretty competitive with it as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you do, okay, you're based in Perth or Western Australia?
yep, based in
Yep.
Perth. Yep.
So do you do most of your runs there? Or
Yeah,
most of
most
your
of them are.
races?
Yeah, it's just the bigger ones that I will travel for. So when I did
Okay.
the satellite champs last year, that was over in Victoria.
Yeah.
I did a 24-hour track invitational that was in Canberra. That was last year. And then obviously the Backyard Masters was in Queensland. So yeah, when I travel, I make sure it's kind of, one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, are you still working as a firefighter?
Yep. I'll be doing that job till the day I retire. I love it.
Fair enough. And you also have kids, don't you? How many kids do you have?
Yes, I've got 4 kids. So the 2 eldest are step kids, and then 2 biological. But yeah, we all live together.
So you've got a
here
really
with my
full
wife.
life, in other words.
Yeah, they keep me pretty busy. But at the same time, like a lot of my running, like with my runs, for example, most of them are done around that sunrise time. So I'm kind of out and back in before anyone's even up.
Right.
So it doesn't really, I don't find it cuts into my family life too much. And then, I kind of, once I've done that morning run, I've kind of got the rest of the day free.
So when you talk about your morning runs, like how long are you going out for? Are you going out for hours and hours at a time, or what are you doing?
Some of my runs are like that. On average, like depending on what part of the training cycle I'm in, I'll be doing between 100 and 180 Ks in a week. Typically, probably my average run would be about the 15 to 20K mark.
Yeah.
And then, my longer runs will, be up to probably 50 Ks or sort of that 3 to 4 hour mark.
Yeah. So you're doing a fair amount. Are you doing like speed sessions and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so when I'm training properly, I try to incorporate at least 1 speed session a week, sometimes 2. But at the moment, like a part of my training now, like where I'm in recovery, I'm not really thinking about that at all. But once I start ramping up the Ks and stuff, I will throw in some speed sessions in there.
Yeah.
And do you practice the I guess the backyard method of 6.7 per hour? Is that something you train, or is that just something you only do on race day?
Yeah, I don't like in that format. I don't train specifically like run 6.7 and then rest and then run another 6.7 and rest. Like if I'm doing a long run, it'll just be a continuous. But what I have done is I've tried to make my new minimum that 6.7 Ks. It used to be my minimum was like 5 Ks. I'd try and get at least 5 Ks done a day. And for example, running to and from work, I'd normally do like a long run into work, but then on the way home, I'd just take the most direct route, which is 4.5 Ks.
Yeah.
So now I've tried to change that instead of doing that 4.5 Ks home, I'll take a 6.7 K route. And that's just to kind of reinforce in myself that that's the minimum sort of run to do. So when I'm in the backyard and I thinking about I need to go for 1 more lap, it's easy to just think about that minimum that my body's used to. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, sort of like you think to yourself, oh, it's just the easy run home kind of thing.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Just 1 more run home. Yeah.
Nice.
All righty, so let's sort of get into the nitty gritty. I mean, congratulations, by the way, and
Thank you.
yeah, with that, all the different backyard ultras around Australia, I've noticed are all quite different. From what I understand from Laz's original concept, it should be a fairly easy course with minimal elevation because it's more about the strategy than anything else. What is the course like at Dead Cow Gully?
Dead Cow Gully, it's got 2 different courses. So there's the day course, which goes through, it's like on a farmland. So it goes through like some paddocks. It goes through a dry creek bed, which is called the Dead Cow Gully.
Yeah.
And then it kind of loops back around and comes back through the paddocks again. The elevation I think is about 40 meters. So it's not super hilly, but there's also, I don't think you want the course to be super flat either, because it's just nice to have that bit of variation in there.
Yeah.
But overall it's relatively flat, but you've just got like a few undulations and a couple of short, sharp hills. On the night course, I think the elevation was only about 20 meters, and that was out along a road. So it's a lot easier surface to run on. Like you're not worried about trip hazards or navigation or anything like that. You can just kind of zone out and run at a comfortable pace. And the elevation with that, there were no sort of sharp hills or anything, but it was just where there was a hill, it was just sort of like a gradual hill. And so it was very runnable. It was, which is good for me because my strategy is to run the night loops a little bit faster. So just being on the road meant I could keep the speed up and get those laps done quicker.
So we were going to ask that. What was your strategy? How did you, did you go for, because there's so many different strategies. Do you go slower and have a shorter break, or do you go quicker and have a longer break? Or do you mix it up? What was your strategy?
Yeah, so I like to mix it up. So I've got 3 main different pace groups. So my quickest one is what I'll do at night, and that's if I want to get some sleep.
Yeah.
But there'll also be a lap during the day where I'll do a fast one as well, and that's where I have my shower. So the idea there is to try and get in less than 40 minutes. And then so once I've sort of had time to, I got to save that kind of 3 to 4 minutes at the end to get all my stuff ready for the next lap. So I end up getting about 15 minutes sleep. And then during the day, my laps will be either around the 45 minute mark or around the 50-minute mark. And that just comes down to what I've got to do in the break. So it might be I'm going to have a foot bath. So then I'll do the 45-minute laps. I've got a little bit of extra time, or I might be eating a meal that's, a bit more substantial, something that's a bit more than like a muesli bar or a few lollies, where I want that extra time to be able to eat it and digest it properly. So those laps will be 45 minutes. And it's, the laps where I don't really have much planned in the break, it's just all about conserving that energy out on course. So there's a lot more walking, a lot more taking it easy. And if I come in at, that 50-minute mark and I only get like 10 minutes spare, then that's more than enough. And I think just mixing up the pace as well.
Yeah.
It just kind of just having that variation helps with the longevity. You're not just constantly going at that same speed the whole time.
Yeah. And that way you're recruiting, I guess, different muscle fibers and that sort of stuff. So yeah,
exactly.
And do you only eat back at the home base, or do you eat sometimes when you're out on the course?
Most of the time it's on the home base. But there's a few laps, particularly at night time, where I am, I want to maximize that time I've got to sleep. So what I'll do, whatever I have to eat on that break, I'll take out on the run with me, and I'll hang on to it till like the last sort of 500 meters, and I'll eat it as I'm kind of jogging back in. So then that way I've eaten it, and then I can lie down and sleep, not have to waste time eating, and I can just kind of let that food digest as I'm sleeping as well.
Yep. We noticed when we watched the video of Herdies that it looked extremely organized back at home base. There were notes for everything.
And labels
for everything.
I was very impressed.
It's to make things easier for me and to make things easier for my crew. Like, I don't think I'm the best runner out there. Like, there's definitely people that have got better speed and better endurance. So to kind of make up for that, I just figure if I can just look after everything else, and I don't have to think about stuff while I'm doing the event. I can do all that thinking before. Then that's going to help me. That's going to help me go a bit further during the event. And if I've got that plan to stick to, I just don't need to think about what I need to do. I just read the plan. I only need to think about that lap, maybe the lap after, and I don't need to kind of think too far ahead and overwhelm myself.
And do you usually have the same crew at each race, or?
It varies. So my wife Gemma, she's crewed for me at every single event.
Okay.
But then I've had different people help out at different events, and it just kind of depends on where the event is and who's available and things like that. So
I'm sure many people are happy to help. In regards to the organization, do you think because you've done 9 now, you said that doing that number has helped you refine exactly what your plan is?
Yeah, definitely. So my plan has changed a lot over each run, and every time I do a run, there's takeaways that I get, and I'll go and modify the plan, modify how it's written up, and just the little things like I never used to put on there, for example, putting on sunscreen. And then I found that, it's just such a little thing. You don't think you need to make a note for it. But then on the day, you keep forgetting it. It's like, hang on, next lap, I'll put on sunscreen. And you come back in and then you don't do it because it's not written down. So just the little things like that, like putting on sunscreen, brushing your teeth. Like I've included all of that stuff in my plan now. And as I said before, it's just to take that thinking out. I don't need to sort of stress about it on the day. It's all kind of planned out in advance. But then there is also space on the plan to make notes up as we go along. So, for example, the event that we just did, I didn't put on there when I was going to have a foot bath. And then it turned out that the best time to have a foot bath was after the last trail lap, because doing the trail lap, your shoes kind of get a bit dusty and you get sand into your shoes and things like that. So once I'd done that on the first day, just went through all the next days and just added in there to have that foot bath, just to remind my crew and remind me that that's what was going to happen on that lap.
Where did you come up with the idea of having a foot bath?
So it's probably after the first backyard I did. So the first one I didn't change my shoes or socks at all. It just got to the point, like I just couldn't even think about taking my shoes off, because, untying the laces and tying them back up again was just too much effort and it was going to waste too much time. And my feet weren't great at the end of it. So going into the next one, I thought, I need to make sure I look after my feet because that's going to help me get further. And I thought, well, I'll sort of make it a habit to change my shoes and socks. So one of the first things I did was put elastic laces into my shoes, just so I didn't have to untie laces. And then, just came up with the idea of doing the foot bars just to wash them down properly. And, like with these events, you've got that time to sit down and do it properly. If you're doing, like a point to point and it was just about getting there as fast as possible, you might not want to take that 10, 15 minutes to take your shoes off and go through the motions of washing your feet, and, you just kind of deal with it. But because you've got that extra time, then you might as well use it to, do something that's going to help you out in the long run.
Yeah. And I bet it makes you feel sort of a bit rejuvenated as well, a bit fresher.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I have the showers as well. So, yes, I could go through 4 days without having a shower because, I'm just going to run and get sweaty again anyway.
Yes.
But just the process of having that shower makes you feel refreshed, and it just kind of sends a mental message that, okay, cool, we're starting a new day now. Let's get on with it. So it helps break it up as well. But it gives you that mental lift. Like you feel a lot cleaner and you feel a lot fresher, and you just, all of a sudden it feels like you're back at day one. So, and you can feel like
I'm sure 100% like back at day one. And so what sort of things did you eat? And do you get gastric distress?
I used to, but I've been working with a nutritionist. So Gabby Villa, Intense Eat Fit. I've been working with her for the last four backyards now, and she's been great. So she's kind of looked at the plans that I've worked with before and used that as a starting point, and then we've just kind of worked together to kind of refine it to what it is today. And I'd never have any gut issues anymore. I have that sustained constant energy. I don't get that sort of mental fatigue. And so the foods that I eat, I used to try and kind of mimic the sort of stuff that I eat at home, and I'd get my wife cooking up salmon and veggies on the fry pan and all this sort of complicated stuff. But now I've kind of moved more towards what's easy, what's convenient, but still kind of gives me the calories and nutrients that I need. So what I found is the stuff like the freeze-dried meals that they make for hikers, where it's just add water. So it's still like a full proper meal. But for my crew, all they need to do is boil water and put it in the bag and kind of just sit and wait for 15 minutes. So making it easier for them is going to help me out in the long run as well. And those sort of meals, they're easy to eat. They're really nutritious. They kind of cover all of your bases. And just the convenience factor is great. I kind of 2-minute noodles are great as well. Another thing, kind of just add water. Maybe not as nutritious as the freeze-dried meals, but they go down really well. And I think one of the bigger things I learned is, something might be healthy and nutritious and, that's great. But if you can't eat it, if it's something that's, is going to require a lot of chewing or take a lot of time to eat, then it's not going to be any good to you anyway, because it doesn't matter how healthy it is, it's not getting inside you. So it's just important to kind of find those foods that work with you when you can eat, when you kind of have a bit of a dry mouth and you can't swallow that well.
Yeah.
And it just comes down to experimenting and finding what works for you.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
So one of the things that is important in these backyard ultras is decent opposition, because ultimately you can only go as far as the person with you.
Yeah,
so
that's correct.
Do you find, because you've done a few now, do you find that you're always up against the same people, or are there other people cycling through as well?
Well, I've only ever had the same assist twice.
Okay.
So shout out to Kevin Matthews. He was my assist at the Hurdy's backyard, the one where you saw the doco. And then there was one in South Australia where he was my assist as well. But other than that, it's always been someone different.
Okay.
And there's always kind of people that surprise you and do a lot more than you thought they would, or you might have not even have heard of them before, and then now all of a sudden they're up there running with you at the end. And then the people that you think might go far, they could just have a bad day, and they might have done 50 yards before, but now at this event they're dropping out at 30. So you never know who's going to be there at the end. But people will surprise you. So
so the person that assisted you for the record one, who was that, and how were they looking like throughout the whole event?
Yeah, so Sam Harvey from New Zealand. So he had a PB of 46, and so he was kind of in the same situation as me, as in he'd won most of his backyards that he'd done in New Zealand, and he just hadn't had the assist to push him that far. So even though his PB was only 46, his potential was clearly a lot more than that.
Yes.
So it was good to get to run with him, and he looks really strong throughout the whole thing. Harvey Lewis as well from America. So I know that he'd done 85 laps before, and both of them looked really strong. But towards the end, so Harvey ended up making it to 90, which was still a PB for him by 5 yards.
Yeah.
And then after Harvey dropped out, Sam started to show a few signs of deterioration, and but he's still he still kept pushing through. Like there was some parts there where he was struggling, and I was just surprised at how far he was still able to keep pushing himself. And so he did really well to get to where he was.
Were there a lot of mind games being played on the start line of each lap? I can imagine there would be a bit.
Not too much. I mean, there was a lot of points there where it was just about working together. Like we've got that common goal. Like we both want to keep pushing it and go as far as we can go.
Yeah.
So there was laps where we'd run together to kind of help each other through the lap. And
I guess
with the mind
have a
game,
very, very shared goal towards the end, don't you? So you want him to go as far as he can, so you can go as far as you can.
The further I can help him get, then obviously that's going to help me go further, because as soon as he drops out, then that's it. I can't do another lap.
Yeah.
I could do one more lap, but then none after that.
Yeah.
But so he came in at lap 98, and he was struggling with his breathing, and I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to keep going. But I'm like, well, I'm lining up for the lap 99. This might be my last one. But then he kind of came up and stood next to me at the start line.
Yeah.
And I was just my main concern was, is he okay to continue? Because he did seem like he was struggling a bit with his breathing, and I didn't want to force him to keep going just to help me get to the record if it was gonna have any sort of long-term effects with him. But he was happy to keep going, and we just kind of took it one lap at a time. so at that point, we knew that the world record was only 3 laps away. So we just need to get Sam through these 3 laps.
Yep.
And then we'll kind of see what happens from there.
So
And
what was the
yeah,
previous world record? Was it 101 hours?
Yeah. So it was 101. So we knew we had to get to there. And if Sam could at least stay with me till 101, then I could go and do that one more and do 102.
Yeah.
But if he got to 101 and he felt like he could keep going and get a few more, then I just would have kept going as well. And however far he was going to go, I was just, in my head, I was just always going to do one more.
Right.
How do you have that in you to just, I'll just keep going one more? Like, do you ever feel like, oh my God, I just want to stop? Or is it just, no, I'm just being a machine at the moment, I'm just going to keep going?
Yeah, I don't really get the feeling that, I want to stop, because I always want to keep going until, I can't anymore. But there's events where I've been at and I'm just like, I just want the other guy to stop so that I can just do the one more.
Yes, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah, not necessarily like I want to stop, because as long as there's someone else in the race, then I'm still wanting to keep going out there and running.
Yeah.
And previous to this, what was your furthest?
So my best was 76.
76. Okay.
So I did that at the Satellite Chance last year.
Right.
And that was an event where I'm just like, I just want the other guy to stop. I'm quite happy for this event to finish now, but you get to the finish line and you have your little rest, and then you go to the start line, and then the other runner comes up as well and it's like, oh, okay, so we're doing this again. And you just I was literally like, this might be the last lap. I'll just finish this lap. Maybe he'll drop out on this lap and I won't have to do another one.
Yeah.
But I was in a pretty bad condition towards the end of that one, and I just somehow managed to hang on and outlast him. So
yeah.
So what does that last lap feel like when if you get to that point where he's not going to complete the lap? So does that, do you feel like that's the easiest lap of the whole lot, or what's your mindset?
I wouldn't say it's the easiest, but it is probably it's one of the best laps. Like, so when I started lap 102, and Sam had said on the previous lap that he wasn't going to continue after that.
Yeah.
He still started at the start line, and we kind of took off together, but then it was just a pat on the back from him, and he stopped, and I went running, and I just kind of you have that. I was just like so elated. I was so happy. Probably particularly because it was on the world record breaking lap.
Yeah.
And it was just, as I was running around the course, I was just kind of just taking in the beauty of it all, and just thinking, I'm just going to appreciate this lap. This is the last time I'm going to see, this part of the course. And I actually took out my phone and I took a video of me running that last lap, which I later put on Instagram, but also just for me to keep as a memory of how I felt on that lap.
Yeah.
And it was as I kind of was coming back in, and you get to around, I think it's about the 5.7K mark, and you kind of pass nearby where the start finishes, but not quite. But people can see you and they come down and can cheer you on. And so just running past those people as they're cheering me on, it just made me feel like really good. And it's like, I've only got 1K to go here, and as I come into the corral, just like high-fiving people, and it's just like, it's not just about winning the event, it's everything leading up to it. So all the training that I've done, all the planning that I've done, all the work that my crew has done, all pretty much everything I've done in the lead up to the event, it's all paid off because I'm out there running that last lap. So it's just kind of everything kind of coming together, and it's just a really good feeling.
Yeah, I can imagine. When you're out there doing all these laps, and you have a little break for between 10 and 20 or 15 minutes or whatever, and then when you start again, are you really stiff, and is it really like horrible starting again, or do you feel just fine?
Most of the time I feel okay. I never really feel like I stiffen up. I don't think I stopped long enough to stiffen up.
Yeah.
But the hardest part of any of the breaks is the sleep breaks, when I have to get up. So I have an alarm that goes off 4 minutes before, and then just to get up, and it's cold, and I need to put my shoes back on, and it's like, I could have been in a deep sleep, and all you want to do is just keep sleeping. And it kind of makes me think of, back when I was at school, and I'd be asleep, and your mum would come in and knock on the door, and it's like, come on, get up, you got to get ready for school, and you're just like, no, just 5 more minutes. But you can't have 5 more minutes, because if you take that 5 more minutes, then you're going to miss the start of the lap. So
yes,
that
would
yeah,
be so hard.
it's that 4 minutes after waking up and getting to the corral, that's the hardest bit. But once you're out there, and once you start running, and you're just kind of getting back into the motion, you start warming up again, it's all good. And you just, until you get to the next sleep, and you have to do it all again.
So how many sleeps would you have, like, in a night? How many of them would you do?
So for this one, I was having 9 per night. So I'd have 3 I'd have 3 laps in a row, and then I'd have a lap where, because to do those sleep laps, I do have to run at a faster pace, and it's not something I can sustain through the whole night.
No.
So I'll do 3 in a row of the fast laps, and then the next lap is more of a slower lap, just to kind of, more of a recovery, and then also to give myself more time to eat during the break.
Yeah.
And then, same again, another 3 fast laps, then 1 slow lap, and then another 3 fast laps. So it works out, 9 laps, getting about, 15, 20 minutes max sleep. So if you add it up, it's about maybe 2.5 hours of sleep.
Because I have to say, I was like bamboozled. Like, how do you go that long? Because I was thinking you were only getting like 5 minutes sleep. So I'm thinking, how is that humanly possible? But that kind of explains it and makes it doable for that.
Even with 2.5 hours a night, I still don't really see how that's possible in a way. But because you're not really getting to that deep sleep stage. It's only like that really light sleep. But there was a couple of times, like I remember one time, it felt like I'd been asleep for ages, and I just sat up, bolt upright, saying like, what time is it? Because I just thought maybe my crew has fallen asleep and forgot to wake me, like the alarm hasn't gone off. But I honestly felt like I'd been out for a couple of hours. And just bolt upright and just, what time is it? And it turned out it was like a minute before the alarm was meant to go off. So if I, but there's times like that. And, some parts, like my crew even said that I was snoring and stuff. So I must have been kind of getting some decent sleep there, as well as decent as you can get in that sort of 15 minutes.
Yeah. And do you find it hard to fall asleep, or do you just sit down and bang, you're right?
I'm getting pretty good at it now. I did in the beginning, but I think the more times I do these, the better I get at it. And also, the deeper you go into an event, the more that you need that sleep, the easier it is to just fall asleep. So the first night's probably the hardest, because you're still not really at that super tired stage yet.
Yeah.
But for me, I never put my pressure on myself to have to sleep. It's just about lie down, put in the noise cancelling earphones, and just meditate. And not, a lot of the time that will just get me to sleep. But if it doesn't, at least I've laid down, I've rested, and I've meditated, and I've just got to sort of shut off for that sort of 10 minutes. So it still helps.
That's also part of it. It's shutting off all the stimulation to your brain as well, isn't it? It's, that's helpful.
Yeah, like it's very hard to sleep when you've got a lot going on around you. So I find, the noise cancelling headphones really help. But the only downside of it is sometimes it's too quiet, and you think you might, miss the start, because I'm not hearing the whistles or things like that. So I'm purely just relying on my crew to make sure that they wake me up. And I mean, that they have alarms set on their phone, but then I just like freak out that maybe the alarms aren't going to work or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that when you've been working that hard at it, that you would be a little bit nervous.
Yeah, because you don't want to get kicked out of a backyard just because you slept through the alarm. I've seen it happen before, and it's devastating. Like when you put in all this training, and you don't actually get to go and perform to your full potential because of just a silly thing like that.
How do you feel, at early stages, I guess, for the first day, when there's quite a few people on the course? Do you enjoy that? Do you soak up the atmosphere, or you just can't wait for all the riffraff to leave the course so that you can get down to business.
Yeah, well, I actually had a blast on the first day for this one. Like, there were so many new people for me to talk to because it was an interstate event and there were, international competitors. There's a lot of new faces, so some old familiar friends as well. Always nice to run around and chat with.
Yeah.
But I just found like every lap there was someone different to talk to. There was a different story to tell. There was this one guy, his name is Mark, and he would run, and when he got to the 5.7K point, that's where it was kind of near that start finish area. And there was a bit of a crowd cheering us on. He would stop and he'd tell a dad joke. And it just so happened that his pace to get to that point was very similar to my pace to get to that point. So I'd find that I was there around the same time. And it just became this thing for pretty much every lap of the first day. I would make sure that I was there at that point when he got there to tell his dad joke. And that made the event really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Just having that little thing to look forward to each lap. But then I think it was probably one lap before the end of the day loop. He wasn't there when I was, I was still there at the same time, but he must have been a bit behind. I'm like,
Oh, no.
oh, do I stop and wait for him? Or, has he pulled out? Is he going to cut it fine? I'm like, I just need to stick to my plan. It's early days yet. Let's just get this lap done. And I didn't hear another joke after that. Yeah, so but that was a bit unfortunate. But I mean, just that first day, having stuff like that happen, it really makes the event enjoyable. And in that first day, I'm never really thinking about, I've got to be running for 4 days. I'm only ever thinking like a few laps ahead. So I don't overwhelm myself with a big distance. This sport is a game of patience. You just got to keep going out there and doing your thing. And eventually you stick at it long enough, you'll get to that Australian record, you'll get to that world record, you'll get beyond that. So you just have to be patient.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
So someone did ask me, they wanted to know how you dealt with going to the toilet. Like, was there a toilet close by, or did you have to go 60 million miles? What's this? Yeah,
so there were toilets right near the start line.
That's good.
And the house had been opened up as well. There was a farmhouse and there was a toilet in there.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, it's always a bit of a tricky thing. It's like you got to make sure that you're timing it right, because you don't want to be on the toilet when the bells are going off. So if I was out on a lap and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to use the toilet in this break, I'd run it a little bit quicker so I can get in and I can have a comfortable amount of time to go and do my business and make sure I'm not going to miss the start of the next lap. You could also, I didn't have to do this, but the option was there that once you start the lap, you could duck off to the toilets that were next to the start line. So that was at the very start of the lap. You could go to the toilet if you wanted, and then as then you've got the rest of the lap to kind of catch up and make up that time. And if you spend too long in the toilet, you might find yourself doing a sprint finish to finish that lap in time. But otherwise you just got to be very quick about it.
Yeah. It's just, one of those things people don't really think about, but it's pretty important. So, we were talking about the foot baths and all that sort of stuff. How many shoes did you go through?
So I took with me 6 pairs. So there were 4 main pairs that I wore. 2 were a backup, which didn't even really get looked at. So with the 4 that I did use, 2 of them were exactly the same. They were road shoes, the Tarkine Goshawks, and the other 2 were the Tarkine Trail Devil. So the idea was I'd use the trail ones for the day and the road ones for the night. But still kind of there were some trail loops where I used the road shoes as well, and they worked for me at the time. So I kind of just alternated through those 4 pairs, and didn't really have any issues.
And so you would change them like every lap or 2 or 3?
No, I'd often remove them at the end of every lap because I've got the elastic laces, or with the Goshawks, I didn't have the elastic laces because it just didn't work with the way that the tongue is, but I had a little toggle, so it was still easy to take on and off quickly. So what I do is I would take them off during the break just to kind of let my feet breathe and relax a little bit. But I'd find myself sticking to like 1 pair for like 12 hours. So I might wear the same road shoes all the way through the night, and then when I get to the day, then I'll swap it for the trail shoes, and I just kind of will rotate through those 4 pairs.
Fair enough. And sort of what were your condition were your feet in by the end?
They were actually pretty good. Yeah, so because I do the foot baths and have the showers, part of that process is at the end of that, my crew will check for any hot spots and blisters and things like that. And so if I can catch blisters early, and I use a thing called Duoderm, and I put that over the top of that'll actually heal the blister. It's not just to protect it, it'll heal it as well. So by the time I get to the end of the event and I take all this stuff off, the blisters have actually healed themselves.
Wow.
So yeah, just make sure I stay on top of it. There was a point where my feet were kind of swelling up a bit, and that was putting pressure on my feet. So all I did was just loosen my laces, and all I had was the top row of laces sort of done up to make sure the shoe stayed on my foot. But otherwise, just by loosening those laces, it gave my feet that room to breathe.
And so do you have within all those shoes that you have, do you have any in larger sizes for if your feet swell a bit?
I didn't this time. I have done in the past, but I just found that I never ended up using the other pair. So I think this time when my feet did swell a little bit, just by loosening the laces, that was enough to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good.
And how did the body pull up after the race? In the days after.
Well, immediately after, I felt great. Like I felt like I still could have. I wasn't at my limit yet. I could have gone out and run a few more laps. But after having a sleep and letting my body kind of relax properly and all of that, the next day I was hobbling around. I was sore everywhere.
Yeah,
and I do a run streak, so I try and run a minimum of 5Ks a day, or as I mentioned, more of 6.7Ks a day now. But the next day I physically couldn't get out there for my run. So because I had to break my streak, I'm like, well, it's already broken. There's no point kind of rushing into it the next day or the day after. I just kind of gave my body like a full week to recover.
Good.
I had a few trips to the physio just to kind of get the massages done and get the tendons and stuff looked at, and then after a week and a bit I was out running again, and even now, so I've been back running for 5 days now, but I'm still just taking it super easy just because I don't need to ramp up the Ks yet because I haven't got my next big event until October, so I've still got a little bit of time where I can just focus on that recovery.
Yeah. Wow, it's just amazing what the human body can do and recover from so well. Was it hot during the race? Being Queensland?
Yeah, so during the day it got really hot. I think it got up to about 22, which doesn't sound too hot, but
no, that's hot.
There was a lot of exposed areas, with that direct sun, and so there's actually a lot of points during the day I'm wearing the ice collar and coming back in and making sure I'm eating icy poles and stuff like that. And then it was the exact opposite at night. Like it got down to like -2 degrees, but it's the actual temperature is -2, but it's saying it feels like -4. So I'm wearing like 2 t-shirts and 2 jumpers and a buff on my head, a buff around my neck. I've got my gloves on. So it was just like 2 different extremes. It was crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
So whereabouts was it in Queensland? Was it south near Brisbane or?
So it was kind of northwestish from Brisbane.
Right.
So about 2 hours out, or 2.5 hours, near a little town called Nanango. And the actual so it's on so Tim Walsh, it's his property, which is called Dead Cow Gully, and that's where it was.
Right.
So this race in October, is it another backyard ultra?
Yep. So it's the World Champs. It's called Big's Backyard, which is the original one in Tennessee, and that's pretty much all your top runners from around the world. Awesome. Your top 75 basically meeting in the one spot to duke it out.
Wow.
Excellent. Oh, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, should be. Looking forward to it.
It'd be nice, coming to it as the world record holder too. So you'll have a big target on your back. So you really have to enjoy that just one more.
Yes.
There's a bit of pressure there, but as I said before, like I'm not worried about what anyone else is doing. I'll just go in and do my own thing, and there's going to be people there that probably want to try and take me down, but as long as I just keep following my plan and doing my own thing, then as I said, I can only do the best.
That's a good thing, I guess, with the format is that you know what you can do. Obviously, that you might have a bad day some stage, but if all goes to plan, then you know that you can beat the best in the world because, well, essentially you are the best in the world. So you've just got to stick to your plan.
There's people out there though who haven't been tested. So
yeah, that's true.
Like my best before this event was 76. So I could have gone into that event having only done 76, but my potential obviously is a lot more. So there's people who, have the record in their country and they haven't had the assist to push them further. So
true.
It'll be really exciting to get everyone together and just see how far everyone can go.
Well, because you're all clearly accomplished at this format, it will be that high. It will be a lot further, one would think, because everyone's gunning to go a bit further. So in saying that, 102 hours, how much longer do you reckon you could go?
It's hard to know. Like, I mean, when I got to 102, I definitely felt like I could go a few more.
Yeah.
But as I said, I only I don't try to think too far ahead. I'm only thinking, kind of the next few laps. But I did feel I reached a point in the event. It was probably on the third day and kind of again on the fourth day. Like once the sun's come up and I've had a shower, I just feel like really fresh and, like I'm back at day one. And like, I'm asking myself, are they going to have to bring in a cap? Like, are they going to have to stop it at a certain point? Because I was feeling really good. I was looking at the other guys and they were looking really good. And I'm like, is it possible that this could just keep going and going? Like if no one quits. And I feel like the only thing that was going to limit me was like a physical injury. Like if I had a bone sticking out or, ruptured a tendon or something like that. Or if there was like a medical emergency. I felt like that was the only thing that was going to stop me. So, I mean, my plan will always, go a lot more than what I expect the event will go. Just so I'm prepared if we do actually get into that space. But yeah, going into bigs, there's going to be, people are going to go there already with the mindset that this is an event that can go a long way. So there's going to be a lot of people that are, if it gets into the hundreds again, we might see that there's a few more people sort of in that space. But you never know with these events. It could, apparently Bigs is a harder course, so that the day course there's quite a bit of elevation on the trail, and you could go there and your best runners could have a bad day, and there's a lot of sort of different factors that come into it. But yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if the world record gets broken there again. But also, you just don't know. It might not go as far as what you think.
And is your wife Gemma going over with you?
Yep. So she's coming over, and we're taking the two youngest kids. But yeah, the kids can't be there for the event because you're only allowed like one crew per runner. We'll just have them with a babysitter.
For Gemma then, because she's got to be awake that whole time too.
Yeah. So we kind of practiced it a little bit at Backyard Masters of her sort of having 2 or 3 hours sleep here and there, and I'm kind of self-manage. Or even just sleeping for the 45 minutes while I'm out there running. But then the other advantage I've got is there's a few guys from WA who are also going. So if the crews can work together and take it in turns to sleep, then we might be able to sort of work something out.
Oh, that's tough. Only being allowed one crew. That's really tough on the crew. Yeah. But I'm sure seeing as she's crewed you for all of them so far, like she must have the routine nailed. So I'm sure you'll make a great team.
I think she'll do all right.
Yeah, because that's a big thing. Yeah. I did have a question, but I've lost it. So have you got something?
No,
that was a really good question too. But let me think. Oh yeah, I wanted to know sort of when you're out there, are you like listening to music or podcasts, or you don't do any of that, or what are you thinking about?
So it's funny because when I do my training runs, I cannot leave my house without my headphones, and I'll be either listening to a podcast or listening to an audiobook.
Yeah.
When it comes to the events, not just the backyards, like when I've done, 12-hour, 24 hours, or, 100-mile, whatever it is, for some reason, I just find that I can't listen to anything. There might be a few laps where I kind of take something out and listen to, but then after those couple of laps, I'm just like, I'm not really feeling it. I won't bother with it.
Yeah.
So, but yes, something like a backyard, especially in the early days, you don't need the music or the audiobooks or podcasts, because there's just so many other people around and you're all kind of running as a group. You're never kind of out on your own.
Yeah.
And then, I think by the time it gets to the later stages, I'm just like, you know what, I'm just not in the mood for paying attention to a book or paying attention to a podcast. It's just too much brain work, I think. And it's just easier to just kind of just go out there and just tune out and, kind of like I do a lot of meditation out there. So just kind of, being in the present moment, stuff like that. But it's just funny. I always find it funny that in the event I won't listen to anything, but when I'm at home and doing my normal training runs, I just can't leave the house without it.
Yeah. No, I actually do understand that, and that's fair enough. How long before the race will you go over to the States?
So we've got a week before.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that's enough time to kind of recover from jet lag and all of that, and kind of get a bit of sightseeing in before the event. So the event's in Tennessee. We land in Texas, and we're just it's about an 8-hour drive to where we need to be. So we'll just kind of make that drive over 3 or 4 days and kind of get to see a bit of the country. And then, I've kind of put aside a week for the event because I don't know how long it's going to go, and then plus a bit of recovery time afterwards. And then hopefully I am well enough for a week after that to kind of go around and do some more sightseeing and things like that. But if not, it's going to be a very fun week, just walking around America like on crutches and because we've planned like Disney World and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
It's going to be hard walking around it.
Put you in a wheelchair.
And I actually having said that, coming back from Queensland, I actually went in a wheelchair at the airport because I was just like, this is too much walking, and this was kind of the next day after doing the run, and it was just
I can imagine.
The wheelchair was just the easy way out for me.
I'm not surprised. Not easy. I mean, it was earned. It was very well earned. Now, if people want to follow you on social media, what should they be looking for there?
Yeah, so Instagram is my main one. So phil.gore.ultrarunner. Yeah. I'm on Strava as well. So just look up Phil Gore on Strava. You should be able to find me. And if you go to my Instagram, then there's a link in my bio there as well, which will take you to the YouTube documentary, and there's some other links on there as well. So I've got a running blog where I write about all of the events that I do. So that's just find me on Instagram and you can find the rest of the links through there.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much. Did you have anything more you wanted to say? No? Well, thank you so much, and congratulations. I mean, it's just amazing. I can't believe you're coherent even these few days after. Like, you've done so well. It's just awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries.
No worries. All right. Thanks for that.